as I dubbed it, as Trump's draining the swamp, his whole administration is flying right over it. So yeah, obviously, if you didn't know, Tom Price, it came out, has been taking private jets. He's the Health and Human Services director. He actually criticized this kind of behavior while he was in Congress, and now it comes out that Environmental Protection Agency Chief Scott Pruitt, who denies climate change and all common sense, is also taking all sorts of goodies at your taxpayer expense. EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt, a climate change denier who is pushing for sweeping budget cuts at the agency, apparently has no qualms about loosely spending some of that budget on himself. In his first 7 months on the job, the former Oklahoma Attorney General has racked up a questionable tab that includes non-commercial airfare, an unprecedented security detail, and a soundproof booth for making confidential phone calls. Who the hell are you calling in a soundproof booth? That's very troubling. CBS News reported Wednesday that Pruitt and other EPA staff took a private flight July 27th from Tulsa to Guymon, Oklahoma, where Pruitt spoke to farmers about his plans to nix the Obama administration's Waters of the United States rule. The flight, booked by the Interior Department as part of an interagency program, later took the group to Oklahoma City. The total cost $14,285. In all, Pruitt's non-commercial airfare has cost taxpayers more than $58,000, according to reports by CBS and the Washington Post. That includes $36,000 flight aboard a military jet, and from Cincinnati, where he joined President Donald Trump for a speech on infrastructure. And during the visit to Colorado, Pruitt blasted the Obama administration for failing to protect local communities and the environment. EPA spokesperson Liz Bowman, by the way, the EPA and their press people, I'm working on a longer form story. They're very, 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 shall we say, prone to spin. Anyway, EPA spokesperson told Huffington Post that Pruitt has taken one charter flight and three government flights. However, she didn't respond to questions about what those flights cost were and why they were required. I think the bottom line, all of this goes into, on one end, Donald Trump is a racist. He's a fascist. He is, I think just vile. And I think not only his statements, but his actions and his history prove that. On the other end, I mean, this man is a con man. And I'm still surprised that I think some of his supporters are starting to see it, but not enough. I think they go to his rally yesterday, pushing tax relief for the middle class, when if they actually know anything about the plan, it's a giant wet kiss to corporate America, to yacht owners. We talked about it yesterday. And this guy wants to drain the swamp, and he wants to get rid of bloated bureaucracy in the government and wasted money, yet Pruitt is making a soundproof audio booth so he can make, his calls in private to the big oil industry and, the mining industry and big agriculture and all these special interests. And Tom Price, Health and Human Services, they're basically taking the government for a joyride at your expense. And then we're told, we got to cut the fat when it comes to Medicaid. We got to cut the fat when it comes to, public education. We got to cut the fat when it comes to FEMA that Trump was trying to cut. Yet his aides, they could go around. And that's not even to mention how much it costs to protect President Trump's very large family, who are taking international trips, and it's costing us way more than previous presidents because his family is huge and they take a lot of international trips. We got to spend money on that. Trump's a con man. I digress.
But that's why it's just the hypocrisy of spending and bureaucracy it's so important to point it out, because when they use bureaucracy and billions of dollars in spending as an excuse to take away your water, your clean air, when Scott Pruitt is advocating for healthcare positions that would strip 32 million people of their health insurance, and they use it as an excuse saying we're spending too much money, you have to point this out. You have to point out that they are not concerned about spending money when it comes to themselves. That's because that old conservative William F. Buckley, cut, don't spend so much philosophy is not really what they ascribe to. What they ascribe to is capitalism and their own enrichment. That's really all they care about. And they've co-opted a philosophy that a lot of people agree with. Rand Paul ascribes to it fairly truthfully. I don't agree with it, but it's at least honest. But they've co-opted it so that they can enrich their own pockets. And that's what's so disgusting about it, because in a healthy society, we have liberals and conservatives debating, and they're honest actors, and their positions are something that they actually believe in. That's the ideal that we should ascribe to in a just society. But people like this, cynical people who just care about their bottom line and their pockets. I mean, Scott Pruitt is the worst of the worst. Tom Price is terrible too, but I really think Scott Pruitt might be the worst person in Trump's administration. They do a disservice to the honesty of political debate, in addition to just robbing the American people blind just so that they can get a few more bucks and fly on a private jet. I mean, it's gross. It's gross. The idea that they even pretend to be public servants, like, should have the founding fathers rolling in their graves.
And I will end with this. Like, in fairness, these aren't the first. Trump administration is not like the inaugural hypocrites or the inaugural corrupt. I mean, Obama, it's a little different. You know, he ran for re-election on income inequality, quoted Teddy Roosevelt, you know, those fat cat bankers. Well, he's having a grand old time right now talking to those fat cat bankers for a lot of money. Hillary Clinton did it as well. But at least Obama didn't run on, like, draining the swamp and, you know, we're going to cut the bureaucracy. Like, he ran on a lot of things that he didn't follow through on. But I think Trump, it's a unique thing because he really connected with a lot of Rust Belt people, a lot of people in the South about, you know, draining that government into the, you know, what do they say? So that it could drain down the bath drain. Well, you know, 58,000 might not sound like a lot. 14,000 might not sound like a lot. But if you're doing it over and over and over again, and it's not only just the amount of money, it's the double standard, right? It's the same thing for, yeah, we're going to end your Obamacare, yet we're going to keep the best health care for ourselves in government. It's hypocrisy. That's why the government should play by the same rules as Emma and I and Ty and do. We always talk about the different legal system for government officials, for corporate America versus everybody else. This is the same thing. And Trump says, now that they've been caught, oh, you know, I'm very upset about it and I'm going to do something about it. Yeah, maybe he'll do something about it. Maybe he won't. I bet you he won't.
Let me just add that he's not really upset about it. Trump robs people blind constantly.
Puerto Rico.
Yeah, but I think he's mostly upset with Tom Price specifically because Tom Price was supposed to be the establishment guy that came into his cabinet, that gave him a connection to the Senate and the House. He knows those guys, and he's failed. He's failed to have them deliver on that healthcare proposal. He was supposed to be the conduit between the drain the swampy, anti-establishment people in the Trump administration and Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan and those guys in Congress. And he's completely failed in that regard. Tom Price has been an abject failure in his position from Trump's perspective, and thank God he has been. Scott Pruitt, I don't think Trump has actually come out and condemned Scott Pruitt for these actions. He has come out for Tom Price. And if he doesn't for Pruitt, I think my theory will be proved a little bit correct.